current member of the Colts there, first-round selection from the University of Alabama. Ryan Kelly, I hope you're doing well. Welcome back to Tuscaloosa.
Hey, guys. Thanks for having me on.
What's the last month been like as you made that transition from the college game to the NFL game?
You know, it's been a whirlwind, obviously, you know, with the draft and everything. You know, you're really training for, 2 or 3 months just for that one day. And then when it finally comes, you know, it's a great, you know, you try to take it all in. And then, a week later, you're back to the bottom of the totem pole. You're doing, you're back into football again. So, I think I'm very fortunate to be in such a great organization that just really has great, outstanding people, outstanding, people everywhere that will help you the most, and all the players in the locker room. So it really hasn't been too hard of a transition. Obviously, going to the next level, things are a little bit more complicated. There's more intricacies to the offenses and just the speed of the game. But it really just been awesome so far, getting used to all the guys in the locker room here and the entire staff.
Ron, can you go back and talk about coming out of high school? You were a highly thought of recruit, but maybe not you were not a 5-star guy. Coming out of high school football, working your way to the University of Alabama, now becoming a first-round player. Can you talk about coming out of high school and that player development that Alabama puts you through to help get you to where you're at now?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's probably one of the biggest keys to success and why Coach Saban and Alabama have been so successful. I think it just goes to show you the support staff that they have there as well. Obviously, that transition from being in high school and living with your parents to living in a new state is obviously kind of nerve-wracking. But certainly, I don't think I'd be in the position that I am now had it not been for Coach Saban and all the resources that he had. So, it was hard. Transition is always different into a new life, into a new league, a new career. And certainly, I messed up a lot of things to begin with, and then figured it out towards the end. But that's just kind of how life goes. But no, I mean, it feels very similar now to when it did then. It's just a learning curve, and as long as you just accept that and embrace it, then every day is going to be better than the next. So, ultimately, I wasn't a 5-star recruit out of high school, but I just made every opportunity count that Coach Saban gave me, and it all turned out for the best. And I think that's probably just how people have to look at it. You just have to pursue whatever it is that you want, and ultimately make the most out of your situation.
Ryan, what was special about this past team? I know you've been on other teams that have had success, but what was special about this past year's team?
I mean, I certainly think it was the camaraderie within that leadership group that was stood up every Thursday afternoon before practice and talked about what we wanted to accomplish that week, how we were going to go out there and play against whatever team it was, and ultimately that leadership on that team is what drove the wheels always the championship and to finally cap off that season after losing week 3 when we had to prove ourselves week in and week out. And I think it goes to show you all those guys got drafted within the first 2 rounds. So ultimately those guys were great players. They're great leaders. And, it was a very special team, but that obviously wasn't just one. January 11th or January 12th, whenever that was. And that was one, during the off season. When it really counted, we put all the hard work into.
Ryan, when you look back, and we're talking right now with Ryan Kelly, former University of Alabama standout, now a current member of the Colts organization, first round draft pick just a few weeks ago. Ryan Kelly right now inside the game. When you look back at that point, did the negative naysayers, the Alabama dynasty's done after losing to Ole Miss and it's over, it's finished. Could you guys use that inside that locker room as motivation, or did you use that as motivation?
Certainly. I mean, ultimately the media doesn't really have an effect on what we do, but I think because so many people put us out and down, we had to really kind of come together and find ourselves. So, like you look at 2011, 2012, both those teams didn't go undefeated. We lost, some point during that season, and I think, certainly those losses, kind of brought us back down. Made us recheck our, egos to the door. Where are we? Where do we want to be? Where do we want to go? So, as much as we say the media doesn't really have an effect, people were doubting us. We're losing to Ole Miss, week 3, but ultimately we hadn't really been clicking on all cylinders. We didn't really have a team at that point. When you look at what we did after that, I mean, it wasn't any of the media's responsibility. It was all the 10 guys in that locker room who came together and said, we're not going to let this loss define us as a team.
Ryan, let me ask you about Ross Piercebaker moving over from left guard to center. How do you see that transition?
It's not going to be easy. Any transition to center or any change of position is obviously a little bit challenging because it's just something new. But I know the coaching staff that Coach Saban puts together, and I know I'm always a resource for him too. And I know he's already been asking a lot of questions to me, and I think he's a guy who understands that there's been a lot of great players ahead of him in that position. I think one of the biggest things that I've been just trying to teach him is how much of a leadership role that comes with when you play center. Things aren't always going to go correctly. This is football, things change, but as long as he's up there, confident at the line of scrimmage and in the huddle, I think he's going to be great. I think he's a heck of a player. From what he started, I don't know how many games last year. Every single one of them as a redshirt freshman. I think he, certainly learned a lot of valuable snaps, throughout that process, and he's going to be great. He's going to be a great player, and I know we talk all the time. So every year there's quarterback questions, all that kind of stuff. But I think whatever quarterback ends up being in there, Ross is certainly going to do a great job, and just that entire coaching staff. I know without even being there, are going to help him get to the best player he can be.
Ron, is it fair under the players at the University of Alabama every single year it's about winning a national championship? And to be reasonable, that's not maybe fair expectations, but it is here at the University of Alabama. They don't celebrate, after losing in the college football playoffs. It's just what they do here in Tuscaloosa. Is that fair to the players that we have that goal and that expectations of Alabama currently?
Absolutely. I mean, every player that commits there, they have to know that that's going to be the expectation, because that expectation wasn't set just by them coming. It's been set, years and years before they got there. So, like I said before, Alabama's not for everybody, and the players who are there now, they understand the expectation. They're going to rise to it, and if not, then they're going to weed themselves out. I mean, that's the way that program is. I think that's what makes it so great. It certainly, I think, it was what drives the success of that program. And like I said before, it wasn't just built yesterday or today or this past season. It's been built, since 2007 when he was there. So, every player who's coming in, they have to understand that that's the standard and live up to it.
Ryan, when you were sitting in your living room and you're watching this NFL draft, did you have a clue of which team you thought was going to draft you? Did you have any indication, or did it come to a complete shock to you that you were taken there in the first round?
I really hadn't heard from the Colts at all. And ultimately, I just kind of had this weird feeling that things were going to work out with the Colts. It's where I wanted to be. It's really where I wanted to play. Meeting with them in Indianapolis at the Combine, a lot of the meetings that you have are just kind of, meet and greet, tell us a little bit about you. But the Colts, they'd already done the research apparently, because as soon as I walked in there, it was a real serious, there was Mr. Grigson, Coach Pagano, they were all in there, all the college scouts, and it was just kind of, what can you do for our program? How can you make our team better, our organization better? And so, I hadn't really talked to him after that since then. And, I kind of always had this weird feeling, because people had always told me, the team that talks to you the least is usually the one that drafts you. And once I saw Atlanta's pick was in, my phone got a ring, and it was Indianapolis, Indiana area code, and I got pretty fired up, because that's where I wanted to be. Certainly just the organization that I've been, heard about, playing for Andrew Luck, playing with Andrew Luck, and the great offensive lines that they've had throughout the year and the years and the years past, just really where I wanted to be.
No doubt. Ryan, have you made that first purchase with that NFL check yet?
No, I haven't. I mean, we're so busy. Just, working the playbooks, figuring out how to be a professional here, the rookie academy and stuff like that. Our long days are here. So I went to a wedding, so I guess I had to purchase a plane ticket. So that was about the first thing I've ever done. And, probably looking to save, pretty much all of it until I can figure out what I want to buy.
Absolutely. Well, Ryan, listen, certainly Tuscaloosa is proud of what you've been able to accomplish. Always represented the University of Alabama in a class manner. Wish you nothing but the best there in Indiana. I know the Colts fans are excited to have you, and looking forward to talking to you on down the road. Thank you again for being a part of our show here in Tuscaloosa.
All right, I appreciate it. I appreciate all the hard work you guys done throughout the year. So thanks for having me on. I'll talk to you guys soon, all right?